What is going on, grinders? It's Chief. We're in the building. It's Take Your Pick'em. It is May 3rd, 2023. So excited to come back on and talk to you guys through a few plays that I'm going to be looking at yet again today. I thought we were going to have a special guest today, a member of the prop shop. I'm not going to give their name out. Just want that to be a surprise for all of the listeners and everybody that hangs out in the prop shop every day. I think we're going to have him on next week. So just be on the lookout, man. Want to give as many people an opportunity as they can to come on and expand their role in this business, just like this great company has done for me. So we're going to kick this thing off. If you've listened the past couple of days, you know it's winning words of wisdom. That's how we're going to kick this pod off. And this quote is coming from Bill Rogers today. This is one that, as I was scrolling through, I said, oh, this feels like a good one for the third day. It says, to be a consistent winner means preparing not just one day, 1 month, or even 1 year, but for a lifetime. And so I'm really excited about that quote because, look, it's so true, right? Like, if you want to be successful, you can't just pick and choose when you want to be great. You've got to be great every day. And so hopefully that continues to inspire some folks, man, to get out and be your best self. Live your best life. I'm living my best life. Live your best life and impact the world in a positive way. So we're going to hop right in this thing. Let's go over our recap. So yesterday, we had 3 plays from the board, obviously, just like the day before. And so we actually swept in a way. We had Lucchese, we had him over 4.5 strikeouts or more than 4.5 strikeouts across the pick'em sites. That was a DMP due to weather, obviously. We had Wander Franco. That was the play of the day yesterday on Underdog and PrizePicks. They had a projection of 7 fantasy points, 9.5 fantasy points on Underdog. And so he went over that, obviously. Thank God for that steal because he had 2 at-bats where he just had 2 double plays with men on. And I was sitting here thinking, come on, Wander, don't mess this up for the people. And then we had Mason Miller, which was probably the largest sweat of the night, finished 6 innings, around 80, I think it was 85-ish, 87-ish pitches, came out in the 7th and got 2 strikeouts and took us over for the win. So on the month right now, we started, right out of the gate. We're 3-3 on the month. Had a much better day yesterday. If you were in the prop shop, man, it was double up city. But that's okay. We made some money along the way. So let's get into the plays. I'm going to start in a different space because, to be honest with you guys, and I'm always going to tell you, I don't like this slate a lot. I have a few plays that I like, but overall, I'm not thrilled about this slate, so I'm not going to be high volume today at all. A couple cards here and there, and I'll probably, maybe follow a few guys in the prop shop. Come hang out in the prop shop. It's free. A lot of great minds in there. I'm sharing, and tons of other people are sharing and doing great things. So it's not just me. It's a group effort. I don't know everything, and that's why you surround yourself with other smart people. We all help each other. We all try to win. So I'm going to kick this thing off. And this is a play I'm actually taking. If you're a premium subscriber, I'm going to go behind the paywall a little bit. This is going to come from our fantasy pick'em sheet that we have, and Chris Jamino's created this, and obviously it's got a whole lot of data that's baked into it behind it, but it tries to find the top 3% of plays that should be profitable for us based on what the sites have offered at that time. So I'm going to get into that, and so it's not a top play per se, but this play is going to come from this sheet, and I'm pulling it up right now. Obviously, once again, if you're listening to your cars, you won't see it, but you can hear about it. Next, Andrew Heaney. There's a projection around the industry on him at 17.5 pitching outs. And so we're going to take less than 17.5 pitching outs. Our sheet is telling us to take less. We've got an edge of about 16.87% and a win percentage on this particular projection of 66.87%. So the closer we get to 70%, the more excited I get on plays like this that are going to come from the sheet. So Andrew Heaney, once again, at 17.5 pitching outs, we've got him projected to go under, win percentage of about 66.87%. I'm going to side with that. And then, of course, as you know, we want to pull up why. So even though we have a sheet, even though I have the bat, even though I have Baseball Savant and all these other great tools, Fantasy Labs, I always want to at least see why the projection is leaning that way. Because once again, as I talked about before, sometimes I may not agree with the projection. But in this particular case with Andrew Heaney, what we're seeing on the season, he's got a 5.10 xFIP here. He has a 24.8% K rate, which is a little bit lower than what we've seen for him in previous years. And I will pull that up. I think we go to 2022. So you can see he was around a 35.5% K rate. On the season right now, 24.8. I'm assuming that will tick up some as the season goes along. But the walk rate on the season right now is 9.5%. And so when we look at Arizona, what we see is closer to the top of the order, he's going to have a much tougher time, not necessarily with the walks, but with the strikeouts. Guys like Ketel Marte Rivera, Lourdes Gurriel, Evan Longoria, those are going to be his problem spots. Nick Ahmed is at 12%, but very low power guy. And this team is not walking a ton at all. That doesn't mean we won't see any walks in the game, but typically they're not going to be a high walk team. But what you will see in the top of this order is they're very high contact. So 85% for Marte, 87% for Rivera, 82% for Gurriel. Now, Christian Walker's at 67.5. Longoria's at 80. Pavin Smith, 71. Maybe Pavin cracks the lineup, or maybe they replace him today. We'll see if they keep the lefty spot for him. But all in all, a fairly high contact team, which will cut down on the walks. But it should give Heaney a few problems. Perhaps they can work the count a little bit. And so I'm going to agree with our sheet today. Once again, we have him at 17.5 pitching outs. We're definitely going to take less than that across the sites. So I love that play today. Another play that I like, we're going to go back to, Joey Lucchesi. I'm not going to go through the full explanation on him, but what we understand about Lucchesi is he's got a matchup with Detroit. I will pull it up just in case you missed yesterday's show, so you can see it. Joey Lucchesi's facing the Detroit team. Wait a minute. I'm on the wrong one. Look at that. I need to go all the way back up to the top here. So here we go. Joey Lucchesi facing a team that's really struggling against lefties. I won't go through all the K rates, but let me just say they have a combined K rate of 30% right now to left-handed pitching on the season thus far, expecting Lucchesi to have a good game. So I want to get into this play. So this one is going to be another bat. We were pretty successful yesterday with that, and not that we're going to be successful with that every day, but I want to share a little tidbit here. Mr. Luis Cessa has been awful this season, and when you look at these numbers, he's got an 8.1% K rate, 8.1% walk rate, a 6 xFIP, and maybe one day I'll get into what all these numbers mean, xFIP and all these other things, just so it can make a little bit more sense. So maybe I'll take some time and do that. Ground ball rate of 36.3%, line drive rate of 38.5%, and a fly ball rate of 25.3%. So the fly ball rate's good, but he's not getting strikeouts, and he's giving up a lot of frozen ropes, which are going to be your line drives. And I'm going to take a similar approach to what we did yesterday with Wander Franco. We're just going to go with the guy that, look, he's a professional hitter. We've got Juan Soto, who, man, hasn't been great this season in terms of how he's looked at the plate. But, I mean, this spot is probably one of the best spots he's been in outside of being in Mexico City. Juan Soto, 271 ISO, 421 WOBA, 19.5 K, 19.1% K percentage, and a 21.3% walk rate, which means we're going to have many opportunities to get fantasy points. The interesting thing about Juan Soto today, yesterday with Wander Franco, he had a projection of 7 fantasy points on PrizePicks, and then a projection of 9.5 fantasy points on Underdog. Today, there's a very minor tweak in the projection. On PrizePicks, he's at 8 fantasy points, and on Underdog, he's at 8.5. Well, and I talked through the scoring yesterday on Underdog, where for singles, hit by pitch, and walks, you're getting 3 points. That's very valuable for Juan Soto today. If he takes 2 walks, he's over half the way home. If he takes 2 walks on PrizePicks, he's 4, and he's right at half. So what I'm hoping is, he can get some guys on base and poke through a few single RBIs. But let's get into the meat and potatoes here as we scroll down to the bottom. Once again, if you're in your cars, I'll give out the data. I know you can't see this. What he's going to see mostly today, he's actually going to see a little bit more slider than fastball. What I think is going to happen here in this particular case, he's probably going to sit on the fastball. He's a very patient hitter. So if the fastball comes, he'll probably take his shots there. But in terms of the slider, he has good contact numbers. So 77.23% contact rate. The ground ball rate is 58.7%. But the hard hit rate, 56.52%. WOBA of 354 and an ISO of 226. One of the things that I like about this season in terms of the new rules, which I think will impact hitters, especially left-handed hitters, is when guys aren't on base, they're not going to be able to apply that shift as much. So for a guy like Juan Soto, who last year may have, tried to poke it through and get caught by the second baseman or the first baseman, slightly off the bag, this season, some of those little bloop singles, some of those little bloop hits are going to become singles because of the lack of shift. So I think that's something important to think about. I know that's not something that you might see in the data per se, but you just have to keep those things in mind. I've seen Anthony Rizzo do that a couple of times this season as well. Poke a ball through that last year would have absolutely been a ground ball out. So I think that's going to help Juan Soto today as long as guys aren't on base. The other thing here, so that's the slider. We're going to go to the fastball. Luis Cessa throwing his fastball around 91.6 miles per hour. So as we see in Plate IQ, which is free this season, please use Plate IQ to your advantage, folks. It's a great tool. We're going to see Juan Soto here. Look at this. 9 batted ball events this season on pitches between 90 and 92 miles per hour in terms of the fastball variety. 100% contact rate, 333 ISO. Hard hit rate, probably wish we had a little bit more, but a 478 WOBA. And then this guy, Luis Cessa, like I said, hasn't been pitching well. So this is just going to really set it up for Juan Soto. Even the changeup, which you'll see some 71% contact rate, ground ball rate is there. 351 WOBA. The ISO is very low on the changeup because it's an off-speed pitch, obviously. But Juan Soto against Luis Cessa today, I think this is a guy that we should see really be able to put the ball in play. And so the board wasn't as huge today. I did want to take some time to talk about an additional site here, which is Hot Streak. I do like Hot Streak today. They've got a lot of the lines that aren't going to be pushes. Now, what you are going to see on Hot Streak is you're going to see a reduced payout or a shift up in payout. So, for instance, for some of the strikeout props, like I like Joey Lucchesi, I like Kyle Wright, on Underdog and PrizePicks, Lucchesi's still at 4.5, but we're going to get Kyle Wright at 5. On Hot Streak, we've got them both at 4.5. But if you're taking them in the form of a 2-pick, then you're only getting a multiplier payout of 2.83x, which is lower. But I do like the opportunity for the profit potential and not taking the push. And I should have looked at where this was in terms of possibly on a sports book or something like that, but I'm not worried about that. I do like this opportunity here. So whatever your standard unit size is, if you put that in, you'll get that at 2.83x. I think another hot topic today, or someone that a lot of guys are going to be on, is Mr. Lugo facing Cincinnati. And I'm going to go to the other side. Look, we've got Lugo. A lot of people are going to be on him. His projections are looking really good across all sites. So even in the bat, I think he's projected for close to 6 strikeouts. I'll go to Fantasy Labs, one of our sites, and I'll pull their own project well. And I think he was around 6 strikeouts there as well, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure I'm right when I looked at that this morning. Yes, Seth Lugo, 5.83 strikeouts. So Seth Lugo, I think, is going to be a good target today. I think he opened at 4.5 on some of the sites, especially Underdog. I know for sure he was at 4.5 on Underdog last night. And if you were able to get in on that, I think you will have some success at that number. I think he's at 5 around the industry right now, and I think most are still going to take 5. I'm a little bit more cautious than usual just because of the K rates of India Frito. Like, he's got some strikeouts here, but Cincinnati they don't look like a high strikeout team like I think we're anticipating. The problem is we've just seen these Cincinnati bats strike out so much, and it feels like every pitcher's picking up 7-8 strikeouts. But I'm a little bit more cautious on Lugo today at 5 and 5.5 than I was at 4.5, obviously. So just wanted to kind of point that out as well. And look, folks, that's going to wrap up today's show. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Hopefully we can come back in tomorrow to another sweep. Don't forget what those plays are. Andrew Haney, we're going to take him under the projection of 17.5 pitching outs, less than that projection. Joey Lucchesi, we're going to run him back. He's got a projection of 4.5 strikeouts across the sites. We're going to take more than 4.5 strikeouts. And Juan Soto, fantasy points. He's at 8 fantasy points on PrizePicks, 8.5 fantasy points on Underdog, which is really good today for both sites. They're much closer in their projections. And we're going to take more than his fantasy point projection across all sites. So once again, folks, you've been hanging out on the Take Your Pick'em podcast with the Chief. Come in with your pockets empty, leave with your pockets full. We'll see you tomorrow.